Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of The Other Side of Addiction. I'm your host, Al Richards. Picture this: a city alive with stories, each corner holding fragments of triumphs, struggles, and the untold battles within. Addiction doesn't discriminate. You've heard us talk about this on the show many times. It seeps through the cracks of society, it's affecting lives in ways unimaginable. Behind every statistic is a human face, a beating heart, and entangled in the throes of dependency. You hear a lot of our guests talk about this, and I could probably tell you already ahead of time, this is going to be a pretty emotional show. Maybe for our lovely guest, McKinley. So, McKinley, thank you so much for taking time out and spending it here with me today.
Of course. Thank you.
Absolutely. You know, while I talked about being so emotional, there's been a lot of stuff that's been going on, even in my own personal life. And you guys know I get very vulnerable on the show, just like our guests do. And man, the past 3 or 4 months have been tough for me. I mean, really, really tough. And yeah, I'll just kind of leave it at that. So McKinley wrote a letter at the age of 14, and she titled it Dear Drugs. Why do you take everyone I love away from me? And a lot of us on the other side of the addiction know exactly what McKinley is talking about. So, McKinley, my gosh. Oh, and before we get started, I just want to say thank you to your lovely mom, Nicole.
Yes.
She is such a sweetheart. I have been so blessed to have met her. And when she reached out to me and shared this with me, I mean, right away, I knew that I knew I'd love to have you on the show, and I was hoping I could get you on the show, and here you are. So I'm just very grateful and blessed to the both of you.
Thank you. We are very grateful for you as well.
Ah, thank you, my dear. So, age of 14, you wrote this letter, and I've shared my letter with you. And we both kind of just like scribbled things down, right? Because we were so freaking frustrated, so angry. What got to you to that point to where you're like, you know what? I got to put this down because I've got to get it out, right? That's a lot of times why we write things because we've got to get it out of our system.
Yeah, I think growing up, like when I was younger, I didn't really know, like I didn't really understand what like addiction was, even though my mom did her best to like try to explain to me that it is a disease. And when I wrote this letter at about 14, my dad has always been like in and out of my life. And that was like, I feel like that was like the time in my life that he just like stopped trying. Like he didn't like care to see me anymore. He didn't really care to talk to me anymore. And I was feeling that and I just needed to get it out.
Yeah. Did you feel like during that time, McKinley, like possibly you was doing something wrong?
I've never really felt like I was doing something wrong because my mom has always told me that like drug is an addiction.
Okay.
And I think when I was younger, I probably was like, why can't he love me the way that I deserve to be loved? But then growing up, I just realized that it's the addiction, it's not him. Like there's the user and the addiction, and then there's the human being. And so I never felt like I was doing something wrong. Like I always sort of just knew that it's him. It's not me.
Yeah. And good for you and good for your mom to open your eyes to that, right? Because it's so hard for us on the other side. I mean, I don't know how many times I told my ex-wife during the depths of her addiction that she loved alcohol more than she loved me.
Yeah.
And I when I said it, I meant it, right? How is it that you can love something that's destroying your life more than someone who all they want to do is take care of you and love you?
Yeah. And I've also like always like my grandma, his mom, I've talked to her so much about like the way that I feel about him, and she has always told me since I was younger that like I was actually reading our messages last night, and she always has just told me that sometimes people can't love us the way that we deserve, but it doesn't mean that it's any fault on our part. It's always something that's going on with them.
Very smart woman. Yes, that's exactly what it is. And it's something that I have been working on to see that just exactly what your grandma said, right? Because there's been some times here, gosh, quite a bit, and especially in the last year or so that I have felt that like I've been doing something wrong. And I've gone through some coaching things, and they're the ones that's been opening my eyes to that, going, it's not you, they're battling something and it's just reflecting on you. So do not take it so personal. And I still struggle with it, right? I still do my best to defend myself at times because I've had to do that all my life. I've had to defend myself all my life. And when you hit 60 and you've been doing it for that long, it's going to take a little time and a lot of work and a lot of effort to start realizing that it's not always you, right?
Yeah.
It's a battle that someone else is going through because we all got our battles. We're all fighting something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So has it just been your dad that has been suffering from that? Because the way your letter was written, it sounded like that there's been other people in your life that has been taken away from you because of an addiction.
Yeah, I think that um when I wrote that letter, there was somebody in my life, and I felt like them using drugs was what was taking them away from me. But I don't think that it was really the drugs. I think that since the drugs like took my dad away from me, and then also this person was using, I felt as though that they were also taking this person away from me, but I don't think necessarily they were.
Oh,
If
okay.
that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, I believe so. Yeah. And you said something earlier too that I find very impressive that you've realized this, I believe with the help of your mom and other family members, that it's not really them, right? The person that you really know and that you really love, they're still there.
Yeah,
It's inside. It's just that there's this shell around them now, and there's somebody totally different. And it's my gosh, it is so hard
it is.
to break that
Yeah.
shell, right?
It is like my dad, he's a user, but also I see the good person in him. Like when I was little, I was a daddy's girl, like the biggest daddy's girl in the world. Like he would sing to me, brush my hair, do my nails, like just so many of these like cute things. Like he's like the funniest person that I've ever met. And growing up, it was hard for me because I see the good person in him. I see all the good parts of him, but also I see the user and the drug addict and the liar and the manipulator and the thief. And I just have had to like differentiate the two. It's kind of like I've mourned my dad even though he's still living. I still see all the good parts in him, but like the bad outweighs the good. Like he has just hurt me so much, and it's just not worth it
Right.
to like keep him in my life just because of the good parts of him.
Yeah. And and you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, because I'm going to kind of elaborate off of this, but there's still that love, right? Because he's still your father, he's still your dad, and you do have great memories with him.
Yeah, of course. I do still love him, and I find myself missing him sometimes, and sometimes I feel guilty because I'm like, why do I miss this person who like never never loved me the way that I deserve? And there is still that love there for him, and I think there will always be that love there for him. And it's crazy because you texted me the night before last night, making sure that I was like still planning on doing this podcast. And the next day I was sitting in my car at work and I was scrolling through social media and I heard this song. It's called Colder Weather by Zach Brown Band. And it just it brought back so many like I feel like it just kind of confirmed to me that I was meant to do this podcast and I was meant to like get my story out and talk about it. But like my dad used to sing those songs to me.
Oh, wow. I got goosebumps.
Yeah, it was crazy. And then I like screenshotted that song and I sent it to my grandma and she's like, "Well, that made me cry."
Yeah, I can see why. And I'm a firm believer there is no such thing as coincidences. Things happen for a reason. People come into your life for a reason. What that reason is, sometimes we know fairly quickly, and other times we may not know for years down the road, right?
Yeah.
And I believe the timing of this show with you coming on today, I believe is no coincidence. Because here in the past couple of weeks, I've really, really had to make some decisions just like you did at such a young age. And I finally had to push someone completely, completely out of my life, completely, no matter how hard it is to
Yeah,
do
it
it.
is.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it is really hard to do.
Yeah, because I mean, you love and you care about them, right? And for me, on the position that I'm at, I'm not in love anymore like I used to be, but I still
Yeah.
love the individual, right? My mom told me once, I hung up on a call with somebody and I said, I love you too. And my mom goes, you sure love a lot of people. Well, it's true because I do love a lot of people, right? I want to share the love. It's a different love than if I'm in a relationship, right? Or things like
Yeah.
that. There's all kinds of different ways of loving people. And all I wanted to do was still be a friend and do my best to support. However, when the other individual is so freaking blind and so wrapped up in their addiction, and you start feeling yourself getting pulled back down that rabbit hole, which that happened to me quite a few years ago. Luckily, I recognized it. I mean, literally, just picture like a horror movie where this monster comes and grabs your ankle and they're trying to pull you down this hole and you're doing everything you can to get away from it.
Yeah.
And I almost freaking gave up. I almost just went, okay, screw it, take me back down the hole. And thanks to some people that I've been working with as far as coaches and a very, very small few who I trust and opening up and telling them everything about my life, because I don't do that with everyone. They really helped open my eyes, and I finally had to throw in the towel completely and say, I cannot have you in my life, period,
Yeah.
anymore. And it freaking hurts.
It
It hurts
does.
like hell.
It really does. And also I feel like there's been times where I've tried to cut my dad out of my life, but then I'll start missing him and I'll think about all the good times that I had with him. And then like I'll try to like reach out to him, but it's never good.
Isn't that
So
crazy how that happens? Because the same thing has happened to me, right? The
yeah.
same thing. Yeah.
And it's just like a cycle and then you get to a point where you're just like, I can't do this anymore. It's not good for me.
Yeah. Well, we've got to look out for ourselves, right? We've definitely got to look out for ourselves. And I was talking with somebody and I says, I cannot tell myself that at least I didn't try, right? I gave it a hell of a shot. I didn't throw in the towel really quick, right? To just protect myself, going, okay, yep, screw you. I wanted to make sure. I wanted to make sure that I was making the right choice for me, not basically for the other person, but for me. And like you said, it's that cycle. When that
Yeah.
when that hamster wheel keeps going around and you're still going, around every step each time repetitively, when is it that you finally say, it's time to jump off this sucker? and
Yeah.
get life going again, right?
I'm I'm really happy that you're working towards doing that or that you are doing that because it's really hard to do, but it's so much better for you in the long run.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. And coming from a young lady who has had to do that for a parent, right? It's a little
Yeah.
different. I mean, it's not different, but it is, to be able to, my gosh, it would break my heart. I have two daughters. It would break my heart if one of my daughters said, I don't want anything to do with you anymore.
Yeah.
I would have to open my eyes and really go, okay, what do I need to do to change my life? Right? Because I don't want them out of my life. Whether, and it's easier for me to say, even if I was battling drugs or alcohol, it's easy for me to say, there's no way I would allow that. But really, would I? Because again, of the grasp that it has on individuals, I like to use eagle talons because they're so sharp and they're so strong, right? I mean, they can swoop down and pick up a fish. I mean, I saw one where I think it was a golden eagle was picking up a mountain goat, a freaking mountain goat that weighs probably 5 times the weight of the eagle, and it was flying. It got it off the ground, and it was flying away with it about 3 feet off the ground. And I'm going, the strength and the sharpness of those talons that is buried inside that animal. That's what addiction reminds me of. And I'm not saying that those who are battling addiction are animals, right? It's not. That's not what I'm saying. But it's just the grasp that it has on them.
Yeah, that's a really good way of explaining it. Cause like no matter how much I love my dad, my brothers love my dad, no matter how much he loves us, it has like my dad's been a addict my whole entire life.
Mm.
No amount of anything has ever made him change. Like the grasp that addiction has on people is and it's so crazy. It's insane.
Yeah, and the battles that they're fighting, right? And
Yeah,
and I don't know if you look at it this way, McKinley. To me, it's not the addiction, right? It's That's just what they're using to cover up whatever other pain that they have inside of them, whatever that may be. And
yeah,
I can't imagine the fear that they have within inside of them to want to be vulnerable and release that, right? Because it's been such a part of them for so long. And when we fall into the addiction, that just fuels it more,
yeah.
right? It just puts more layers on top of us for us to have to try to figure out how to break those layers to get back down to it, to get it the hell out of our life.
Yeah, I watched a movie the other week and it's called Beautiful Boy. I don't know if you've seen it. Um, but it's about um this kid and he's a drug addict. And at like towards the end of the movie, he's in a meeting and he was saying how he was like in the ER and one of the nurses asked him like what his problem was. And he said that he's a drug addict and an alcoholic. And he was like, no, that's how you've been dealing with your problem. Like, what is your actual problem?
Yeah, that's exactly right, right? Yeah, that's exactly what happens. And the only reason why I know this is because of all the amazing guests that I've had on the show who have told their stories, right? Of why they became addicts, what they were covering up, and how hard it is to release it. I mean,
Yeah,
there's still things. I'm not battling with addiction, but there are still things on in my life that I am still battling and working on, just getting out of my head, right? And I've done coaching and I've talked to people who know how to help you with that, and it's a slow process. It is a very slow process. I wish I could just snap my fingers one day and just, you're too young. I don't know if you remember, I Dream a Genie, where you just do one of those and all your problems are
oh yeah,
gone. However, it's the journey that we're supposed to experience
yeah,
to get us out of that.
yeah. um I lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I do that too. Yeah, I do that too. I'm just talking about the journey, right? How we wish that we could just snap our fingers and just be able to get rid of whatever it is that we're holding, right? Because I mean, you you are a very, very strong young lady. I can tell that already just by the way you're talking and what you've gone through and what you've shared. However, do you still feel like there's still some of that resentment and still some of that pain that you just haven't been able to completely let go of yet?
Most definitely, I still feel resentment towards my dad, and, um, I have 3 little brothers, and I haven't seen them since they were babies, and this is one of the reasons why I resent him is because he did the same thing that he did to me and my older brother to my baby brothers, and he's the reason why I don't know my little brothers, and he's hurting them the same way that he has hurt me, and there's there's a lot of anger and pain still inside of me, um, because I have grown up and I've seen all of my girlfriends do all of these things with their dads, like, their dads going like, even just watching movies with them, like, all the things that dads do with their daughters. Like, when I was talking about this earlier, when I was younger, I was daddy's little girl, but growing up, I just realized that that's something that I could never have with my dad.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of things that have happened in my life, like, throughout my whole, like, teenage years and me, like, becoming an adult, he just wasn't there through some of, like, the most painful, like, big moments in my life, and I always, like, wish so badly that he could be that person to be there for me. So
Yeah.
I definitely do still feel some resentment towards him.
You've built up some strength though, right? I mean, you've built up strength enough to where you're not allowing it to drag you completely down. And I think that's what happens to a lot of us, right? We just allow it to take us down the wrong hole, the wrong direction because we let that resentment just grab a hold of us, kind of like our ego. Our ego can destroy us just as easy as the resentment can. It's a
Yeah,
tough battle.
it is. And whenever I feel resentment towards my dad, I f I just also think about the good person that he is, because I have so many fond memories with my dad, and I'm so grateful that I got to experience those memories. So whenever I'm feeling, like, angry or I'm feeling resentment towards him, I just try to think about all the good times that I got to spend with him, and that kind of helps me.
So yeah, so you switch those thoughts, you switch this thought patterns.
Yeah,
And I want our listeners to understand with what McKinley just said and what she just shared, because it's a process. It doesn't come very easy, but really it is that simple. And I've shared this on a show a long time ago. I took a class, oh my gosh, it was probably 7 or 8 years ago. And there's about 40 of us in this class. And the lady that was teaching the class had us all get up and move our chairs, and it was a pretty good room, and we got in this big circle. And she turned down the lights and she goes, "Here's what we're going to do. We're going to do an exercise because I want to teach you how quick you can switch your thoughts." And she goes, "I want you to look down in front of you and draw an imaginary circle. And when I count to three and say step into your circle, I want you to close your eyes and think of something that gets you very, very angry or sad." And then she says, "And I want you to keep your eyes closed and continue to think of that thought until I say, okay, step outside the circle and open your eyes." So we went through that process. When we opened up our eyes after stepping out of the circle, she asked us to all look around the room. And you're looking around the room and you can see people with their fists clenched. I know mine were clenched, both of them were. People crying, people just had I mean, really distorted looks on their faces, right? And she goes, okay, everyone get your thoughts back together. She goes, now we're going to do the exact same process. This time, I want you to step inside of the circle and think of something that makes you happy. And so we went through that exact same process. We stepped back out, looked around the room, and everyone was smiling. And some people were smiling still with tears coming down, right? And she goes, that's how quickly you can change your mind thoughts, your mindset. And I found that to be very, very interesting because we get these thoughts in our head, resentment, that what we were talking about or was talking about, and we could hang on to that all day long. And we can let it bring us down all day long, right? And it's just as simple as changing the thought, like what you do, and say, I'm going to remember the good parts that I had and change that mindset. And it sure helps. And the more you practice it, the easier it gets.
Yeah. Um, it is sort of hard to do sometimes, like when I have big feelings. So it is kind of hard to do sometimes, but I just find myself so much happier when I do that. When I just remember all the good times that I've had with him instead of all the bad times.
Yeah. Well, I'm with you on that one. I have a big heart, and I'm a man who wears my feelings on my sleeve. I was brought up the old-fashioned way. You didn't cry. You held everything in, and I realized that was one of the issues why I had an anger problem because I had a very, very bad anger problem, and it took me till I was in my mid-20s, and I finally hurt someone that I cared about. And when I saw them laying on the floor curled up in a ball, I'm going, what the hell am I doing? Right? I went
Yeah.
through 6 months worth of therapy, anger management therapy, to learn how to recognize when that stuff was coming. And I started realizing it was everything I was holding in. And it still took me quite a bit of time, probably till I was, okay, this is what changed me. Having grandkids, that frickin' turned me into the biggest ball baby. And it still does today. Seriously, as soon as I had grandkids, it just completely, that switch just flickered. I mean, it didn't flicker. It actually just, it went on and it hasn't shut off. So, I've never been a guy that likes chick flicks because, I like things that blow up and you shoot things and stuff like that, right? Like a lot of guys do.
Yeah.
I don't like them anymore because I'll sit there and I'll find myself sitting in the chair freaking crying. And it's like, oh, this is terrible.
That's
I'm over
hilarious.
here crying to a chick flick. What the hell is wrong with me?
I love that so much.
Oh my gosh. And it's just because I want to, I'm not going to hide my feelings. And even when I do my public speaking, I find myself up there crying. And I remember the first time I did my first talk, I apologized afterwards. I apologized for getting emotional. And three ladies that was there, all three of them came up to me at the same time. And I was saying that, and they said, no, don't you change it. Don't you you just keep doing what you're doing. And I'm okay with it now. If someone wants to look at me and go, you're not a real man because you cry. If they said that to me, I'll tell them, yeah, but they can shove it, and they might want to look at some things differently.
Yeah, real men do cry.
Right?
They
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you something. Do you have your letter with you?
I do not. I have actually no idea. I do have it on my phone.
Do you know where it's at? Would you like to read it? Would you be interested in reading it?
I can definitely read it.
If not, I know where it's at on my phone. I can send it to you.
My mom sent it to me. Oh,
Okay.
my mom sent me a picture of me and my dad and my brother
Oh my
at one of
gosh.
my cheer competitions.
Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome.
That's so funny that she sent me that. Okay, I know that it's in our chat. Okay, I found it. Okay, are you ready?
Okay, I'm ready. Yes.
Dear drugs, why do you take everything I love away from me? It started out with my dad, then my boyfriend. You know they're a lot alike. They know how to make you feel loved, but when they use drugs, they forget. It's all they care about. They use the thought of how important you are. They only care about you. Why can't I be a drug? Why can't I be enough to make you stop, to make you quit? I never knew drugs were so important, but I am more. I should be more important. I am more important. I wish you could see that, but the drug has blinded you. I hope your disease doesn't keep getting worse.
Wow. Something that got me emotional when you said it, and it still is why can't you be a drug? I think a lot of us probably feel that, right? That why can't I be the substance in that bottle? Why can't I be what's inside that needle, right?
Yeah.
Or
Like, why
inside
can't
that
I
pill.
be what you need?
Right. Yeah, why is it that I'm not enough to get you to feel the way you feel about this other thing? I mean, to me, that's very powerful. Because I believe we talked about this at the beginning of the show, how it's hard for us to understand how that stuff is more important than us. And I did a post not too long ago that I do a lot of posts about addiction on my TikTok and one of my Instagram pages. And now I'm trying to remember what it said. Oh, it said something about how addiction promises you the world, and it promises you everything that you've ever wanted. And then one day you wake up and realize it's taking everything that you've ever wanted.
Yeah.
Doesn't keep its promise.
Yeah. I agree with that a lot.
Have you ever thought of writing another letter?
I've actually wrote many letters. I'm sort of like a writer, like when I'm going through something, I write it down in my journal, like I wrote poems and stuff
Okay.
like that because it helps me heal. But I haven't written once like specifically like about drugs in a while.
Okay. Yeah, I thought I'd ask because again, I shared my letter to addiction with you so you could read it. And it was actually the original letter. It was real scribbly and some things crossed off as well. And it's kind of crazy because the first time that I wrote it, I had one of our clients that we're working for read it, which is crazy, right? You would think I would have went to somebody that I'm very close to read it. And the reason
Yeah.
why I had her asked her to read it is because they're from Wisconsin and they moved here to Salt Lake. We're remodeling their house, and she opened up and was telling me that her son's in prison because of his addiction. And she's sharing about what an amazing boy he was growing up. And she's a mom. She loves her son dearly, even
Yeah.
though he's battled these battles. And I just felt very comfortable asking her to read this letter. And also I knew that she would be upfront with me on it, right? So she read it and she goes, Al, that's a pretty cool letter. And she kind of said it in that kind of tone, right? And I'm like, okay, here comes a but. I know a but's coming. And she goes, that's not really how you feel, though, right? I'm like, what do you mean? It is. And she goes, no, 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 no. You're being too nice. She goes, let it out. Let it out. Tell it exactly how you freaking feel.
Yeah.
And I thought, huh. I came home that night and I was going through the letter and I was reading it and I went, holy crap, she's right. I'm tippy toeing. So that's when I grabbed that piece of paper or that notepad and I just started going down, and I'm copying off of some of the wording that I had already put down. And I just basically started throwing it out with the language behind it. and
Yeah.
And I remember my eyes just tearing up as I was writing it. And then after I was done, I went back through and I was reading it. And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly how I feel. She was right. That's is exactly how I feel. Because it does, it takes everything away from us. Everything. And I'm not saying like material stuff. It's the love and the care that we have for individuals. It literally reaches in. It's like a horror movie. It reaches in and it freaking goes through our chest and grabs our heart and just yanks it right out of us. And we find ourselves so angry and so emotional and starting to question ourselves. And it's not fair. It's not fair for either of us, right?
Yeah, it really is not fair. It doesn't make them feel good either. Like it doesn't make the person using feel good either. But I just think that they don't know what to do about it, or they can't do what they need to do.
Yeah, I look at it as it's the shame. And the only reason why I say that, because I watched my ex-wife go through this over and over. I'll never hurt you ever again. I promise. A week later, my heart was being ripped out of my chest, thrown on the ground, jumped all over. The whole process started all over again. Starts all over again, getting that hamster wheel. I promise I'll never hurt you again. I'm so tired of hurting you again. Over and over and over, I won't. And then that whole process starts all over again. And when she was sober for the 2.5 years, after, I don't know, a year or so that she was into it, I remember asking her how she felt about that. And she goes, I wanted to stop. I really did. But then I'd start feeling that shame and that guilt that I hurt you. And all I wanted to do was numb it. And so the process starts again. And then I find out I did the exact same thing to you again. And then the whole process would start all over again. And it's like they don't know how to get out of that nightmare. I mean, I've not been one of horror films. I've never cared for horror films. Even as a young boy, I've never cared for them. And I think I do remember seeing oh, what's the one with Freddy Krueger?
Oh,
Nightmare on Elm Street or something, right? How they go into this nightmare and it keeps dragging them in.
yeah,
Yeah, that's what it reminds me of, right? And we're doing everything we can to get ourselves out of it. And even on the other side, the people who are battling their addiction, they're doing everything they can to get out of it, but they keep finding themselves going right back in.
yeah. I think like with my dad, I've sort of told him how he has like made me feel, and I feel like they still don't like fully understand like the way that we feel.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just speaking with someone last week. They gave me a call on the phone and to let me know what was going on with somebody. And when I was speaking with her, and I become really good friends with this lady, I love her to death. She goes, Al, sometimes it's really hard for us because she's been in long-term recovery for a long time. She's now out there helping people in their journey of recovery and doing an amazing job. She's helped so many individuals. She goes, it was very hard for her to finally open her eyes and realize the damage that she had done. Because she goes, during my addiction, I had no clue I was doing any damage to anyone other than myself. And it's because we're so blind and we're so wrapped up in us, right? And our pain. We're not paying attention to the pain that we're causing others. And she goes, literally, we do not see it. We don't see it until after we get ourselves on track and the drugs and the alcohol get out of our system and we're going through our journey and our process of recovery. And, there's a certain time in the 12 steps for those that go through 12 steps where they have to make that amends and they have to realize what they've done to individuals. And some people's journeys are completely different. And they don't. I really do believe that they don't understand what's happening to us on the other side. And it's because they're still all wrapped up in that addiction, right? That shell is over them. They haven't had that chance to break it and look through it yet.
Yeah, they have the blinders on.
Yes, the blinders. They're looking at life through a straw. I like to use that analogy a lot. I don't know why, but that's just how it seems to me. I know when I was a little kid, I always liked to look through a straw, like I was looking through a telescope or something like that. And one day I realized that looking through a straw, you only see what's a little teeny circle, what's in front of you. You're missing everything else that's all around you.
Yeah.
So, what else is there that you would like to share? Is there something that you want to get out there?
Um, I just really want people to know that they're not alone and so many other people go through the same thing. And then also just that there's nothing wrong with them. Like just because somebody can't love you the way that you deserve to be loved or like show you the side of them that you deserve, it doesn't mean that anything's wrong with you. Like I wish when I was a young girl, um I fully understood that it's nothing to do with you and you are more important than the drugs.
Yeah, very well said. You know what? I think one thing all of us can work on to learn how to love ourselves a lot more, right? And
Yeah.
to not take things so personal. And I'm not saying that I don't do that because I do. Again, I think we all still have that issue of taking things personal, like there's something wrong. And there's not. You know,
Yeah.
I believe I said this at the beginning of the show. We have to step back a lot more and do our best to put ourselves in somebody else's head, right? What is it that McKinley is battling? Why did she say the things to me that she said? Because I don't feel like I said anything wrong, right? Or hurtful. Instead of me and my ego jumping up and starting to defend myself, which again, I still do at times, and I'm working so hard at changing that, to go, okay, there's something she's battling, and I need to have a little bit more compassion about it and maybe not say a word, right? And just look at it, okay. Or if it was the other way around, right? If you're going, okay, you know, why are you taking something so personal that I said? Or even one of our parents or a friend. It doesn't matter because again, we've all got some battles. Every single one of us, we're all battling something. And sometimes we don't realize it until that trigger, until that match is lit, right? And
Yeah.
it's been buried deep, but it doesn't take long to surface, especially if a match has been lit. And it brings back those old memories and where we have to protect ourselves or feel like we have to protect ourselves. And again, I think society has kind of molded us with that, right? It's
Yeah.
it's our way of just saying, and our subconscious doesn't know what's real and what's fake. So it's doing its job. However, we really got to stop ourselves and go, okay, is it really worth saying, or is it just my ego, or am I just defending myself because of what's happened in my past?
Yeah. I find myself in like situations like maybe I'm arguing with my parents or something, but it brings me back to like when I was this little girl and I was feeling abandoned and I was scared. And it really does like bring a different side out of you and it makes you say things that you don't mean, but like you're just trying to protect yourself.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and we all do it. We definitely all do it. So, what are your plans from here? What are you looking at? I mean, are you hoping somewhere down the line that I would think I think I already know the answer to this. However, I'm asking it anyway. Let's say your dad gets it all figured out and just starts working. I mean, I bet that would be something that you'd love to have back, right? Is that relationship and be able to, you can never bring back what's been lost, right? But there's new memories that can be made.
Yeah. Um, my dad has been in and out of rehab my whole life. Um, and there's been times where we have all thought that he was sober and not using, and it would be good for a while, but then it would always go back to the way that it was before or worse.
Mhm.
And I just don't know if I would be willing to like put myself in that situation no matter how much I love him. And I do have compassion for him, but I just don't think that I would ever be able to put myself in that situation again just because I've been in that same situation so many times before and it's only ever hurt me.
I love how you put that, McKinley, because I was asked that question a few nights ago with what's been happening in my life. And I pretty much said the exact same thing that you said, right? It's happened so much in the past 8, 9 years. And there's been periods, right? Up to 13 months, 2.5 years, maybe with a lapse here and a lapse there. It's scary to think, right? To open your heart again,
It is
have it
scary.
to have it stomped on, right? And the person or the people that I was with, they're like, maybe after 3 years, possibly four, where you're seeing that longer period, and it gave me some comfort. It's like, yeah, because you still care for the people, right? You still care. They're a human being. You loved them at
Yeah,
one time before. You still have love and care for them. However, is it worth that chance again? Because we've done it, right? You and I have both done it. We've opened our heart and our arms so many times just to walk through the door one day and get hit upside the head with a 2x4 once again, right? And then
exactly.
we're still willing to do it again, and we get hit again. And it's like, when is enough finally enough?
Yeah. And I also do feel I do know that like even if my dad did come back into my life, it would never be the same as it once was. And I've been dealing with it since like dealing with him using since I was a baby. Like he literally was so high when I was born they didn't let him cut the umbilical cord.
Oh, wow.
So it's just like my whole life he has been like this and I just don't know if he I don't know if he will ever change. Like my mom told me the other day that he's in a rehab center again. So I don't know if I ever see that happening.
Yeah. And that's hard for us to take. I mean, it is for me, at least. You know, I was even asked by these friends that I was with, it's like, have you prepared yourself? And I'm like, prepared myself for what? And they're like, prepared yourself for that phone call. And I finally understood what they meant by that, right? It's like, man, that one I don't know. And I hope I don't ever find out. However, I know that day can come, right? Where the addiction finally just takes them. And
Yeah.
I want to share something with you that this one really shocked me. When my ex-wife was in the depths of her addiction, her mom used to live with me. After her mom lost her husband, we let her move in with us because we felt like it would be good for her to have family around. And so we had a big enough house at the time, and we let her move in with us. And my mother-in-law and I, we became very, very close. We were just really good friends. But her health started getting bad, and we ended up having to put her into a home. And even though my ex-wife was going through her addiction, and I can't remember if she was in jail at the time or if she was in rehab, but I would go in and stop. I'd do my best to at least once a week go in and see her mom and give her updates and just come and visit her. And she was asking me some questions, and I told her, yeah, she's in jail or she's in rehab again for the umpteenth time. And this blew me away because she's talking about her daughter. She goes, Al, maybe it would be best if the addiction just took her. And I get emotional thinking about it because I'm like, she's talking about her daughter.
Yeah.
Now, her husband battled addiction and it took him. So she knew exactly what I was going through. But I still saw the pain in her eyes when she lost her husband, right?
Yeah.
Even though it gave her some peace, knowing that she doesn't have to worry about him anymore. She knows where he's at. And I was so floored by that, going, you're saying that you think your daughter would be better off dead than going through what she's going through. And I have put so much thought into that, so much thought. And as much as I don't want to see that, I was literally, and this is no lie, I was literally laying on my couch last night and thinking of this exact same thing, going, maybe it would be better because they're suffering. They're suffering hard, right? They're going through something I have no clue how to fix or how to change because I don't have that capability. And then again, I start thinking, no, 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 I don't want that. I don't want that to happen. I don't want to get that phone call. It's yeah, it just really floored me when she said that.
Yeah. That would really floor me too. And I do understand like why she would say that because then she knows that her daughter is safe and she's at peace. But it's just so like heartbreaking to hear that like it gets to that point.
Yeah. You know, I feel like McKinley, us on the other side, we lose either way.
Yeah.
We don't, I don't think we gain anything, right?
Yeah.
We still don't gain the complete knowledge of it. We still don't gain our loved ones' love back 100%, except for our memories and what we've been able to gather and hold on to right here. However, if they stay in it, we lose them.
Yeah.
And we've gone through it so much, we've still lost them, right? Because we both shared that. I mean, how often, how many more times do we walk in that door just to get hit again, right? We've done it 20 times, 30 times, 100 times already. Why do we want to continue to feel that pain and that hurt? So we lose either way.
Yeah, I think I said this earlier, but it kind of feels like I've mourned my dad. Like even though he's still living, I feel like I've mourned my dad as if he was dead because he hasn't been in my life for so long.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. I can definitely see that. Because you got to have someone in your life on a continuous basis. And if not, yeah. I mean, friends are different, right? Because friends come and go
Yeah.
all our lives. And however, it's a little different if it's parent or a sibling or our own child, something like that.
Yeah, to like really let them go and like I don't know. I really feel like I have like mourned my dad. Like I completely let him go,
Yeah.
or at least almost completely.
Wow. Well, you are a strong young woman, I tell you that. So, yeah,
Thank you.
you've got a lot of your mom in you.
I know. My brother tells me that me and my mom are like the same person.
Yeah, two peas in a pod, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love your mom dearly, and I'm so blessed that I had the opportunity to meet her. And I don't know if she told you how we ended up meeting, but we both was doing Herbalife.
Oh, she did tell me that.
Yeah, there was a little convention thing out at the airport Hilton, and I'm parking my vehicle and I get out and I'm walking up the door, and I see this beautiful woman walking down the sidewalk, and I go over there and I open the door for her and allow her, and I say hi to her, and we end up sitting together, and we ended up getting talking and got to know one another, and we just became friends right there, right? And it was just all through the Herbalife, and then she got on with Nick and Ryan with a Tribe of Giants, and she reached out to them and said, "Hey, you got to have this guy on your show," and our friendship has just kind of grown from there. Matter of fact, she actually came when my ex-wife got her 2-year chip. She actually came and gave her a congratulations, and brought, I think she brought her, your mom always comes with gifts. Every time I had her in the studio as a guest, she was always bringing gifts and things, but I can't remember what it was. But yeah, I just adore your mom. I think she's an awesome lady, and I can, again, I can see her strength in you, and she's done an amazing job raising you, and yeah, I don't know what else to say. I may end up tripping over my own tongue, so I could probably stop there.
Thank you. Thank you. My mom is the best. I didn't get super lucky with my dad, but I did get super lucky with my mom. I have the best mom. I would not trade her for the world.
Yeah, yeah,
And
she seems like the cool mom on the street.
she is the cool mom. She always like adopts all of mine and my brother's friends. Like she calls them like her daughters or her sons. Like she just adopts everybody and she loves everybody.
Yeah, that's your mom, that's for sure. That's for sure. Well, is there any last things that you would like to share? I know here a little bit ago you shared some really deep insight. I usually like to ask my guests, what is it that you would want our listeners to gain from this show, and or what would be your main message?
Um I know I said this earlier, but I just really want people to like understand that it is not their fault. Like I cannot stress that enough. There's nothing wrong with them. And um I know that it is really super hard, but you will make it through it somehow, some way. You're going like even if it's like a year down the line, you're gonna feel a lot better.
That's great advice. Thank you again, McKinley, for being on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you, and it didn't get as emotional as I really thought it was going to. So you still have a full box of hankies, which is really good, or
Yeah, I
tissues.
didn't I didn't share like a bunch of like my sad stories. So
Yeah.
you
Well,
you almost made me cry a couple times though.
you know, I don't know how to take it if I get more teary-eyed than my guests. I don't know how to take that. But however, again, that's just who I am as an individual, and I'm not embarrassed by it at all. And yeah, just
Good.
again, thank you. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be on the show. And I definitely love to talk to you further. And I'm going to get with the rest of our team for when we do our next Healing Utah Success Summit. I think it would be cool to have you come up and just talk a little bit about your experience and to share your letter, because I think these letters do a lot for those that come to our summit. Yeah, because a lot of those, again, they're in long-term recovery or just starting their recovery, or they're on the other side like us, and it really opens some eyes.
Yes, I would absolutely love to do that. I thank you so much for like offering that. I would love to do that.
Absolutely. Well, if there's any other time you'd like to come on the show again, feel free to reach out. Okay. If there's something else that you'd like to talk about, we've had a few guests come on multiple times, and I always love to have them come back and share a little bit more about their lives and where things are at. So feel free to reach out to me anytime. And again, thank you so much for being here
Of
with us today.
of course. Thank you so much for having me. I loved talking to you.
Thank you, my dear. So don't leave. I'll finish up the recording here, but don't leave when I hit stop. So, guys,
Okay.
thank you again to all our listeners, all our guests, all our sponsors, everybody. Guys, again, this wouldn't happen if it wasn't for you. You guys are the ones that's making this a success. It's hard to believe that we are coming up on 3 years with this show and 234 something episodes, and we've got some really good ones coming up, just like this one. This was an awesome show. Remember this, guys, addiction is giving up everything for one thing, and recovery is giving up one thing for everything. We're out.